The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
All right, this is the big week for one of my favorite running column traditions, the Who Has the Highest NBA Trade Value column gimmick, which I've been doing since 2000 on my old website. Last year we started a separate running gimmick that is now a part of this running gimmick, which is the podcast to prepare the trade value list with my buddy Joe House. So in a way, it's a gimmick inside a gimmick. But anyway, Joe, you're there?
I'm here.
Are you ready? And say you're breathing heavy. You sound like you're like legitimately excited.
I'm excited, but I have to ask a question.
Yeah, what is it?
Did you get permission from ESPN to have me on today?
Why?
Because this isn't about A-Rod.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I'm looking at the ticker every so often, and I'm expecting to see things like A-Rod ate veal in 2005.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We'll rank A-Rod in the trade value column because you're right. We have to work him in somehow. I have a new theory on A-Rod.
Let's hear it.
I think he could easily pass as the lost Menendez brother. When you watch that interview, remember when they used to
Are you
interview
talking
Lyle?
about the Menendez brothers that killed their parents?
Yeah, but not the killing part. The part where they would wear like those kind of like those Izod sweaters that were like always like light blue or pink, and they would give these interviews and seem like they were very convinced in what they were saying. He reminds me of them.
This comparison is just based on looks, not based on their murderous background?
Right.
Is that your point?
Well, and the whole not being truthful to themselves part, where they had talked themselves into this lie, and were now perpetuating the lie.
Yeah, I guess.
But they didn't really, they kind of knew it wasn't true, but they had rehearsed it so much that, they believed what they were saying.
Yeah.
Like when he's saying that he lied to Katie Couric because he
Thought she was hot?
Well, he wasn't being truthful with himself.
Oh.
That's like, just think how stupid that is. What?
How's Jacko doing?
Jacko is a mess. Jacko emailed me today and said his new worst fear is that A-Rod hits a homer in the first game of the new Yankee Stadium, followed by the New York Post headline, "The house that Juice built."
I love it.
Jacko's got 700 people up in his Facebook group now. There's 700 Jacko fans.
That's fantastic.
Unbelievable.
How is he keeping them all, tuned into his doings?
I hope it doesn't go right to his head. That's 698 more fans than he had at Holy Cross. Let's get to the column.
Wait, before we get to the column, there's one other noteworthy thing about today.
Yeah.
Did you see the news?
What
All-Star
news?
game, Saturday? Well, not game, but...
You mean horse?
Yes.
Of course I saw the news. What are you talking about?
That's a banner day. We've been talking about this for 20 years.
I know, but it happened a week ago.
Oh. I just saw it.
You just saw it. Well, you've been busy. I've
been busy.
working.
That's true. We're trying to save...
It is true.
American
I thought it was an 11-year odyssey, but actually it was a 20-year odyssey for us because back when we were in college, we used to talk about how the NBA should have horse on All-Star Weekend. We'd go crazy. Anyone we'd tell our idea to, they'd agree that it should happen. And then when I had my old website, 1998 was the first time I wrote the NBA should have horse column. So, yeah.
At a minimum, I hope you get a little credit.
I do think they made a mistake, though.
What, with just the three guys?
Other than all the corporate mistakes that you knew they'd make. It should be done with guys who are comfortable in their own skin. Like, you can't go with young guys because part of, I think, horse would be the trash talking and just the personality of the guys coming out. Like, for instance, Paul Pierce, I think, would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
But, you take Durant, you take O.J. Mayo, those guys aren't going to be, like, strutting around and giving each other crap. They're just going to be very... I don't know. I don't see it.
Okay.
We'll see, though.
Well, yeah.
All right, now let's get to the column.
Sorry.
So, we're taping this on a Tuesday. The column goes up on Thursday. I've done a lot of the legwork on it. I've written most of it, but I still haven't come up with the order. So what we try to do is we try to figure out who has the most trade value. In other words, let's say LeBron is number 1. That means that Cleveland would not trade him for anyone else in the league. But let's say Carmelo's number 12. That means that Cleveland would not trade him for anyone under 12, but for the guys above him, maybe they wouldn't say yes right away, but at least they'd say, that guy's available. So you're talking about degrees. And the one rule is that we're pretending there's no cap for the trades, but it's in a world where cap and tax does matter, if that makes sense. So, for instance, let's say Phoenix offered Amari Stoudemire to Portland for LaMarcus Aldridge, and that trade was made. And Phoenix could pay $10 million less for LaMarcus Aldridge than Amari. They would probably do that. That trade couldn't work under the cap. Now, House and I just argued about this yesterday. You say that Portland would be crazy not to do that trade.
Yeah, I do say Portland would be crazy not to do that trade.
And what's your reason?
Amari has demonstrated himself to be, like, when he's compelled to play at a top level, a top 15 player in the league. I mean, and we've seen him do it in the playoffs. I mean, he almost single-handedly beat the Spurs 3 years ago. And, Aldridge is nice. I mean, I'm not, down on Aldridge. It's no knock on Aldridge to say that Stoudemire, his upside comparatively and the impact on that team. I just think anybody, I don't think there's any scenario in which Phoenix is going to get fair value for Stoudemire. Right. In this kind of situation, and I think 28 of the 30 teams should want Amari Stoudemire.
But to pay him $15 million a year for a guy that doesn't play defense might be a head case.
I don't know about that the not playing defense is a permanent thing that's going to stick.
Really?
Well,
have you ever watched him play defense?
Well,
he's like a drunk guy.
I think a lot of it has to do with sort of
the coaching mentality?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, sort of what's around him, what the strategy is, it's not unlike, quarterbacks in the NFL who get subjected to a series of systems, without any kind of continuity.
So you're not sold on Terry Porter's defensive imprint on the 2009 Suns?
Not sold.
Not sold. Hard to believe that the leader of what might have been the dumbest and most self-destructive team of the 80s and 90s, the Trailblazers with Drexler. Hard to believe that he's not a good coach. I wouldn't have guessed after the 14 playoff collapses with him. All right, well, let's talk about we had to bump some guys from last year's list. And did you sign off on all my bump offs, or is there anyone you disagreed with?
Yeah, no, I sign off on all the bump offs. I mean, are you going to run through the names real quick?
I might not. I don't want to spoil the column.
The only one that I would probably argue with is Carlos Boozer.
Okay.
And you think he's a special case.
Yes, he was number 11 on last year's list. Now this year he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season, and all indications seem to be that not only does he not want to come back to Utah, but they can't afford him because Darren Williams' contract extension kicked in. They're paying way too much for Karolinko. They'd be over the tax next year if they paid Boozer and Millsap. So it seems like they might try to tie up Millsap and let Boozer go, and it seems like he wants to go. So I don't know how we figure out his trade value under that scenario.
So the theory is that nobody would trade for Boozer. Nobody other than Miami would trade for Boozer because they'd just be renting him, and he's injured for the next 2.5 months.
Exactly.
I got it.
And he might not come back.
Right.
I would trade for him just to have him on my bench wearing shirts that were buttoned down to like the navel with the chest hair coming out and the gold chain. Just to have that on my bench for my fans. I would think about it. You know who might trade for him? Mike Dunleavy. He's dumb enough to do it. I could see him doing it.
Well, I just read something that suggested that the Clippers were seriously considering offering Baron Davis back to Golden State for Corey Maggette, a player who could not have disliked L.A. more the past 2 years. So,
or have been more disliked by his fans. If he comes back, I might have to bring Rufus's dog poop to a game and just whip it on the court, serve the mandatory 1-week prison sentence.
And that still wouldn't be the worst trade this decade.
No. Hey, though, the Barron thing, clearly he's put on weight and he's jogs through games and he doesn't care. And he's trying to get his coach fired, it sure seems like. I don't know if
fantasy fans all over the country.
Oh, God.
Ecstatic.
Yeah. Hench in our league, Hench has him, and Hench has been sending vitriolic emails lately about Barron. But, on the other hand, you have to know. First year of the contract. But anyway, if I'm the Clippers over trading Baron Davis, I think I would make Mike Dunleavy step down. I think that would be my move. I don't know.
Cost you $10 million.
I'll make him be a GM. Just tell him to step his ass off the bench and be the GM. So anyway, all right. Well, we'll save that stuff for the column. I think the one you were a little down on Tayshaun not at least making honorable mention, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way he sort of jumped to the possibility of taking on more of an offensive role this year. And he shot the ball at the beginning of the season pretty darn well. He's kind of cooled off a little bit. And that team now is weird, has a weird identity. So I wanted to recognize him for what I saw out of him at the beginning of the year. And he sort of gets almost a lifetime achievement kind of recognition for the fact that he's been in the conference finals every one of the years he's been in the league. Right? Or near it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What about, a lot of these names are logical names that went off, but I think it's interesting that number 28 from last year, Tracy McGrady, no chance of being on this year's list.
Yeah, no chance.
Number 27, Gilbert Arenas. You're a Wizards fan. Do you want a minute to rant about the Gilbert contract?
No, I don't think it's fair or appropriate for me to talk about Gilbert Arenas because I'm not capable of being rational about it. And
yeah, but say your thing about how it's the Groundhog Day for Wizards fans. Do that part.
Well, that is true. I have been through this before. It was just a half dozen years ago that, or a little bit longer.
No, it was a decade ago.
A full decade?
Yeah.
It feels like much more recent.
No, it was a decade.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That they so poorly managed Juwan Howard after they drafted him, and he played well for a couple of years. They did such a bad job of contract negotiation with him that they ended up paying $50 million more than they probably would have to have kept him in town, and it proved to be, at the time, the worst contract in the league. And then the team put pieces around him that proved completely unworkable. Chris Webber for one, and so I ended up with a team of Juwan Howard and Mitch Richmond and a whole bunch of detritus.
George
Mirasan. George Mirasan, he played 1 year. He had 1 year before his giantism sort of kicked in and took him out of the league. But
it's an issue, the giantism.
Yeah, it is. It's an issue.
I'm going to say that a pituitary gland problem is really never going to translate to long-term NBA success. It's my expert opinion.
That's why they pay you the big bucks.
You know what's interesting? So anyway, the whole point is that now 10 years later, they sign Arenas to this $111 million contract, as you and every other rational Wizards fan is saying, well, wait a second. Shouldn't we see if his knee's okay first?
Yeah, I mean, the team has spent $160 million on Gilbert Arenas and Antoine Jamison, and this is a team that hasn't made it out of the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
So this is the I've seen the ceiling, and I don't like it.
Right. And it's kind of similar with what Philly did with spending all that money on Dallenberg and Iguodala and Elton Brand. It's like you're paying all this money to lock up a ceiling that gets you basically to round 2.
Exactly.
And you can't get out of this once you've done it. So why do it? That's why I love what Sam Presti did with the team that shall not be named. The Ray Allen trade arguably maybe should have gotten a little more or whatever, but Jeff Green's good. Russell Westbrook's good. Durant's good. They got all these expiring contracts. He loaded up on all these different draft picks that he was able to pick up. And that team has a nice foundation.
Yeah, the only thing that's a little weird, the only slight misstep that former Seattle team has taken is letting PJ Carlissimo sort of head them up for maybe 3/4 of a season too long.
or hiring him in the first place. I would have fired him when he tried to play Durant at shooting guard. I mean, you look back now, and that might have been one of the 10 dumbest things that's happened this decade. sports related.
Yeah.
What would make him think that Kevin Durant should be a shooting guard, or that he could cover other teams' shooting guards?
It's that thing where, I think, who am I? I'm just a moron from Silver Spring, but his body type, he's slight appearance-wise, and maybe, the thinking was he can't handle the banging.
That's ridiculous. I mean, he was blocking shots and rebounding at Texas.
I know. I agree. I think it's ridiculous, too, but...
This league drives me crazy. Like, P.J. Carlissimo can get hired, 2 more times after Sprewell choked him, or 1 more time?
Just one. As a head coach. He was on the bench.
He was terrible. He did a terrible job with every team he coached. Terry Porter was run out of town in Milwaukee. He gets another job. And meanwhile, Tom Thibodeau is, if this was the NFL, Tom Thibodeau is hired as a head coach. They'd be like, this guy's the best defensive assistant in the league. He's a head coach. But yet, in this weird, screwed up league, they win a title partly because he is such a good defensive coach, the Celtics, and the guy doesn't get a job.
Well, I don't, Thibodeau, that may be a self-selection for him because, for instance...
Not true. He wanted a job.
Are you know that to be a fact?
I'm positive. He was devastated. He didn't even get an interview.
He just got a ring with the Celtics. And he's
but he should have gotten a job this season. How does he not get the job, but Terry Porter does?
Well, maybe I don't want him to get a job because I want him to be down here in Washington, which was in the cards, by the way, 2 years ago, and all credit to Thibodeau. He decided not to come here because he didn't like the appearance that he would sort of be coach in waiting behind Eddie Jordan, and he didn't want to do that to Eddie.
Right.
So...
And now Eddie Jordan, now underrated probably.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I wish he was the Clippers coach, so I didn't have to watch Mike Dunleavy anymore.
I wouldn't mind him still being the Wizards coach.
All right, let's go. Here are the honorable mention, toughest omissions from this year's list. I'll just run through them, and you tell me if you think any of these guys should have made it.
Go ahead.
Monta Ellis.
No, I'm okay with him being off.
$66 million, dumb enough to ride a motorcycle or motor scooter or whatever it was. Got to leave him off.
I was impressed, though, with how healthy he looked when he came back. His jets are certainly in place. You just worry, whether or not he's going to be all the way back or not.
Andrea Bargnani.
He's just a little too inconsistent to be in the top 40 for my taste.
I would also throw in can't guard anyone that doesn't rebound.
Yeah.
Rudy Gay.
See, I highlighted him. Why isn't he in the top 40? Would the Clippers really say no to Rudy Gay for Eric Gordon?
I'll spin that around for you. Why is Rudy Gay good?
He has a rare talent of being able to score off the dribble. There aren't a lot of guys in the league that can do that.
Here's Rudy Gay's stats.
I like his size.
Rudy Gay's stats this year. 38 minutes a game, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 31% shooting from 3.
What's his field goal percentage?
On a bad team, 44% field goal.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? That's a good swing guy in the NBA. That's a good NBA swing player.
It's a good one, or could anybody put up those numbers?
No, not...
You could put up those numbers putting 37 minutes a game.
I don't think that's true.
Let me ask you this. Let's think of another swingman. Could Kalana Azubuike on a bad team score 16 points a game with 5 rebounds and 4 assists with 40% 3 playing 40 minutes a game on a bad team?
I guess so. But how does that help the argument?
Thaddeus Young on the Grizzlies put up a 19.64 on a bad Grizzlies team?
He hasn't done it consistently. Maybe he could. I don't have any problem with Rudy.
I need more from Rudy for playing that many minutes and being the number 2 scorer on a bad team.
All right.
I just do.
All right. It's your list.
I'm just listen. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be discussed. Just saying I don't think he's one of the top 40.
Yeah. I'm okay. He's getting recognized. He gets honorable mention.
All right. I'm right. We'll put it on the record. You're pro guy. Rodney Stuckey.
I like him, but I'm fine with him being honorable mention for now. I think he's going to crack the 40 though next year.
Yeah, I think that would happen in one league. I haven't seen him play defense yet. He doesn't guard anybody.
I don't know. Who does play defense in this league?
Yeah, but he's terrible. He was on the court and partially responsible for Ramon Sessions' 44-point explosion on Friday night. That's all I need to know.
How about this? Maybe Ramon Sessions is good, by the way.
Well,
Seriously, can anybody explain Luke Ridenour to me?
I said that 2 months ago. I urged people to pick up Ramon Sessions as a fantasy pickup because I just think that guy's talented. Everybody's had him. We all picked him up and dropped him.
I know. We cut him because he couldn't get any minutes.
I saw Ridenour. I saw on the ticker that Ridenour fractured his thumb or whatever he did.
Yeah.
Immediately went on our website to pick up Sessions. And he had been just sitting on Strick's team for like 6 weeks.
I know.
Our friend Strick, who works for the Clippers.
It's okay. Strick deserves a little good luck.
Yeah, he really does. Strick is a mess.
Yeah.
This whole Clippers thing, I feel bad for him. The whole organization. You know, it's a bad sign when I rip Mike Dunleavy in a chat and people are emailing and calling me to congratulate me and thank me.
So seriously, what does Strick tell current season ticket holders they should do? They should think about next season.
He just apologizes.
That's it?
Well, because every season ticket holder is like, look, why doesn't Dunleavy step down? He can still be the GM, but, this team does not try for him. Why don't? And there's no answer. Andres Biedrins. He'll be back next year.
He started off gangbusters. He would be on this list if he was still playing at the level he started off the season. Yeah,
and he slipped, but the real issue is that he's a base year compensation guy, which means that his cap figure is like one third what his actual salary is. So on paper, a trade with Amari and Biedrins as the principals makes a ton of sense. But the trade could never work because Biedrins' cap figure is screwed up until this summer. So we're going to leave him out. Leo Dang.
When he signed that contract, I kind of scoffed, but for whatever reason, the sort of separation of that Bulls team and Scott Skiles has juvenated some of those guys. And I'm not sure exactly what it's attributable to, but more guys on that team are playing hard now than they did it all last year.
I went to the first game. I went to the first game when it happened. They played the Clippers. Clippers have a way of turning team season around.
The weird thing about that Bulls team is the Vinny Del Negro thing.
Oh.
That's your reaction?
Well, I watched them live, and I'm sitting there thinking this team not only should be a lot better, but would really be the ideal half-court trap. Let's play run and gun. It would have been the perfect D'Antoni team if you threw in a half-court trap as well. It's just all young athletes who are just, you just want to let them run wild. It's like letting a dog out in a yard.
Yeah, they're hungry.
Let the dog run around.
They're hungry.
And meanwhile, I think I saw 2 fast breaks with Derrick Rose in 48 minutes. Just give Derrick Rose a rebound and let him run.
That's true.
It's really not rocket science.
I know.
I can't stand it.
I hear you.
There's one sleeper on the honorable mention list that I'm not even going to mention in this podcast because I want to save him for the column.
Oh.
Let's go to Russell Westbrook.
Well, okay, good. I like him. Great, he has exceeded expectations, is what I'll say.
You know what's funny is I loved him in UCLA. He was my favorite non-top guy in the draft type of guy, sleeper. And then he kind of rose too high. By the time he got at number 4, I was like, all right, that's a little ridiculous.
Right.
But now I'm kind of in love with him again.
No, I hear you.
I don't think he's a point guard, though.
You know what he's sort of an example of is, letting the young guys go get some experience and see what they can do. Not to go back to my Washington Wizards, but they seem to be employing the diametric opposite approach with JaVale McGee, and the Wizards instead think that Darius Sangha should play 32 minutes a game rather than the young kid because, the kid's got to earn his minutes.
Joe Mead, what minute mark are we at the podcast right now?
We're at minute 23.
Oh, man, I had over for 25.5 for when the JaVale McGee, Darius Sangha thing was going to come up. I knew you were going to do it somehow. I didn't know how you were going to work it in, but I knew.
It was a given.
It bugs you that a useless Russian forward with a bad knee plays over your rookie with potential?
It makes me want
a bad team?
Throw the phone through this window I'm looking at right now. That's how it makes me feel. The dues poop. That's what I'm prepared to do if it keeps up here in Washington.
The next guy is Jason Thompson.
Yeah, he's really nice, and I liked him. Right before the season started, somebody did a little thing on day in the life of Jason Thompson for a few days. Totally likable kid, and I really like the way he plays.
Me too. He
plays bigger than he is.
I gotta say that's one of the logical Omari destinations, in my opinion.
Sacramento.
Yeah, because they have some expiring contracts, and they could give up a pick and Jason Thompson, and Phoenix could save some money. And then if you're Sacramento, you could, because their fans are ready to bail on that team. At least they could tell their fans, hey, we got Kevin Martin and Omari. How's that for you guys?
Yeah.
I think the team that trades for Omari is going to be a team that kind of needs to do right with their fans, and fans don't really understand. Their fans are like you. They think Omari, that he'll start playing defense on another team and stuff like that.
Well, that's not what you're solving for, though, from my perspective. You don't acquire Omari for him to start playing defense. You put him in a situation where you're going to get the 24-12 that he's capable of. That's what you're trying to get out of him.
Well, and that's why the team that should trade for him is Chicago. Because then you just put him and Derrick Rose together, let them run free, my dog in the backyard analogy. Just let them do their thing. Don't even worry about defense. Just do your thing. Run the high screen.
Well, and does that Chicago team play defense now?
Really depends who's on the court for them.
Yeah.
It's a messed up team. It's just a team. It's a team that should be playing a certain way, but is not. Jeff Green.
I like him a lot. I'm really happy to see him take off. He's a local kid. He's from the D.C. area. I liked him when he was at Georgetown.
Yeah.
It looked like he had a little confidence issue last year, but I'm really glad to see him succeeding.
I loved him in college as well. I thought he would become this kind of pro. He has. I like everything about him. You know what's interesting? If the Celtics had just taken Jeff Green at number 5 and not made the KG trade,
right,
we would have had a foundation of Jefferson, wipe out the ACL injury. Jefferson, the way he was playing before the ACL injury, let's imagine that. Rajon Rondo, Pierce, Jeff Green, Kendrick Perkins, Theo Ratliff's expiring contract, and the rights to Minnesota's number 1 that we ended up giving back to him. It's kind of a nice foundation.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could have maybe made maybe we make the Gasol trade instead of. I wrote about this last year, but now that Jeff Green is good, it's even more interesting. Maybe we make the Gasol trade and not the Lakers. Now you're talking about Gasol, Jefferson, Pierce, Jeff Green, Rajon Rondo. It's a nice team.
It's a nice team.
Yeah.
It's not.
I'm glad it worked out. We won the title.
Right.
But it's just kind of interesting that other road really wasn't that bad of a road, I don't think. The number 5 pick in last year's draft was not as much of a disaster as it seemed like. But on the other hand, we basically have it confirmed that they would have taken the chairman.
Yeah, that's right. And that would have been a disaster.
Yeah, now you're talking Pierce unhappy. Rondo maybe never comes into his own because he doesn't have the veteran leadership from Ray and KG. Jeff Green becomes a mess like that, so maybe it goes that way. I don't know.
And the thing that I would be worried about with that team is you can't overstate the importance of KG to the rejuvenation of PP.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have
and not just him, but Rondo too.
So even with Jeff Green, you sort of wonder about what kind of frame of mind Pierce would have had last season.
And Perkins, without KG.
Yeah.
I don't know if he makes it.
It's the same for all those guys. I mean,
Yeah.
KG should be getting money he should get some of Doc's salary. He should be getting coach money and player money.
I'm going to say he's overrated as a leader and an intimidator of his own teammates only because Big Baby keeps shooting 15-footers. And until he kills a referee or a ball boy.
He made Big Baby cry.
You know what, though? I think he needs to make him cry again because we lost to the Lakers because Big Baby kept firing up 15-footers. And the coach left him in. God bless Doc Rivers.
That was the question. I mean,
Jesus.
Can we get an explanation for that? Why was he in the game?
Why? Or you know what? I'm fine with putting him in, but put him in with the Hoosiers when Coach Dale put Strap in. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Strap, don't freaking shoot, okay? Whatever he says. And Strap starts shooting, but he's making them. This is the opposite. This is Big Baby just throwing up bricks.
Yep.
He's been doing it all season. He's just keeps shooting this 15-footer. It's driving between him and Tony Allen. I don't know if I make it to May. I really don't. I can't handle it. I really can't. It's a nightmare. All right, last guy. This is my toughest omission. Kevin Love.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with leaving him out.
I don't either, but it's just it hurts.
Yeah. I have another name, and I mean, I don't want to skip over Kevin Love, but and he has been sort of everything you could hope for. You know?
Who is it?
Jameer Nelson.
Oh.
I actually think Jameer deserves honorable mention this year.
Interesting. I'm going to write him on my list.
Because, looking at his
I don't know
contract,
how, I missed him because he got hurt, but you're right. He's, 5 years, $33 million?
Yeah, so last year was like kind of a ridiculous contract, and through, half a season, it's not a ridiculous contract. He's everything that team needed, and he sort of transformed himself. I was down on Orlando last year because of Jameer, but
that was a really tough injury. Obviously good for me as a Celtic fan, but I really liked the way Orlando was playing, and I thought they were one of the most likable teams in the league.
Yeah, me too.
They really pulled for each other. It was one of those teams that if anybody was doing well, they would show the bench and everybody was standing up.
The thing that I was looking forward to seeing was when it came playoff time and they were exposed when they needed to score inside of 2 minutes, and all those plays run through Haydu.
But Haydu somehow scores in those plays.
Yeah,
that's the part I can't reconcile.
I think that's their fatal flaw.
Yeah, we talked about this before Nelson got hurt. I think they were destined to be this year's New Orleans. Probably 2 rounds, and the second round loss would have been like very, very inspiring.
Yep.
You would have no problem with it. They gave it everything they had.
Yeah.
Now I don't think they have a chance.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of those old Sacramento teams where C-Webb was the headline player, but all of their plays inside of the last 2 minutes ran through Vlade because he was the only one that was really had the cojones to take a shot.
And Mike Bibby that 1 year.
Well, that Bibby the 1 year, right?
Yeah, I'm going to put Jameer in honorable mention just because he's hurt, but you're right, he deserves it. All right, let's get to the top 40.
Uh-huh.
I have Amari at 40. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I understand it. We argue about it a little. I mean, I look down the list and see a whole bunch of guys ahead of him that I think is ridiculous. Like, for instance, why would the Wizards say no to a trade of Caron Butler for Amari Stoudemire?
Do you think they'd say no?
I don't know. I mean, Caron has a good contract, so that might be the reason. The Wizards can't afford.
The Wizards have a terrible team that's going nowhere. Why would they spend an extra $6 million a year on Amari?
Because they think that a team. Amari's only 20. He's probably the same age as Caron. No, he's younger than Caron. So if your future is Gilbert Arenas and Caron Butler. That's not,
But then you're banking on guys with knee injuries.
Well, I mean, but you've already made that deal with the devil.
I'm leaving him at 40 because it frightens me that they've been offering him around the league for, we found out about it 2 weeks ago, but it's really been going on for multiple weeks.
Right.
And cannot come up with a single decent deal.
That's the point. I mean, that's why he's got to be 40, because we already have observed that Phoenix isn't going to do better than 75 cents on the dollar for him. They're not going to get fair value for him. Might
even be 60 cents.
Right. Exactly. They're not going to get fair value.
The way their Suns thing is going, they might actually edge the Sonics fans as the most depressed fan base. And the Sonics lost their team, but the Suns are more upset, I think. Sonics have now, it's like they've buried the body.
Yeah,
but the Suns fans just get to watch the body get tortured like a prisoner.
Right. It's easier to sort of psychologically deal with the fact that the team left. You have real clear villains, you know what I mean, with the former Seattle team. The Suns have, sort of imploded because of a lack of vision, a lack of, strategic planning.
Well, and a lack of finances, more importantly. Look at all the guys they gave away because of money.
Well, that's right. Yeah, we went through that. Do 3 or 4 or 5 names on that list. Just for fun.
Well, Lil Dang was the original one. They sold that pick.
Right.
Then I think the pick they got for Lil Dang, the future pick, is it Lil? How do you say his name? I've never figured it out. I've heard it 4 different ways.
I think it's fine to use any one of those 4.
Can I call him LOL Dang?
Why not?
LOL Dang. So that pick turned into Rajon Rondo, who then they decided they didn't want him. They flipped that pick again for what would have been Rudy Fernandez. They sold it for, I think it was $3 million. And that was the Odyssey. And they also,
they waived the right to Nate Robinson, right?
They waived the right to Nate Robinson. They lowballed Joe Johnson, basically made him leave.
Yeah.
got really, they turned Joe Johnson into Boris Diaw and Robin Lopez. I'm going to say that's the trade they wouldn't make again. And then they turned Diaw and Raja Bell into Jason Richardson.
Which, all things considered,
I'd rather have Joe Johnson.
Yeah, I would rather have Joe Johnson.
Perfect swingman for that offense.
That's true.
We talked about the Suns a million times. Let's go to, all right, the next group of guys I have. Eric Gordon, David Lee, Al Horford, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Brook Lopez.
So the only one out of that group that I sort of take issue with and wonder aloud about is Brook Lopez.
Really?
Does he really deserve to be in the top 40?
I mean, he's basically needs to be double teamed.
Yeah, I mean, he's showing a lot of potential, but I guess what I'm really saying is that I kind of have a problem with maybe any rookie in the top 40. Maybe that's what's sort of bothering me.
Yeah, but the whole point this year is that the economy is so bad and these guys are all terrified of luxury tax and the cap. And not just that, but next year, because they all made less money, the cap's going to go down.
So so the principle you're articulating basically is like the more you can get out of your young guys and get them up to speed and get them time and see what they're capable of, that's where you generate value. In other words, I'd like to call it the anti-Wizards plan. Oh, sorry.
I don't even think it's a principle. I think it's a fact.
Yeah.
When you look at where this game is going and where the economy is going, you don't forget, like, with this year's attendance, the economy turned in August. So for if you ever had season tickets, like you have to put in your first deposit in May.
Yeah.
So you're kind of locked into tickets at that point.
Right.
Next year is the year where teams are going to get killed. Because we even saw it happen. The Clippers had a money back guarantee up until opening night with season ticket holders, and a lot of people just backed out right before the season.
Wow.
So, and the other thing is attendance figures are much further down than people realize because the big thing is Seattle going from Seattle to Oklahoma, whereas they were drawing nothing in Seattle, is basically empty, and now they sell out every night in Oklahoma. Damn it, I said Oklahoma.
More than once.
Joe Mead.
Yes.
Will you bleep those Black City references?
To the city and
yeah. Can you bleep those? I'm not even kidding.
Bleep the city references.
Bleep those two OC references. Thank you. All right. So anyway, I think the attendance figures are much lower than people realize, and they're going to get worse. And that's what makes rookies more valuable. I'd rather pay, if I'm a team that's really worried about the bottom line, I think Brook Lopez for $3 million a year is enticing. Yeah.
No, I agree with it. I just, okay, all right, I'm sold.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
How would you rank those guys? Gordon, David Lee?
Right. Would I don't think Atlanta would trade Al Horford straight up for Brook Lopez.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, Horford's demonstrated the ability to do 10-10 over the full season. Plus, he really does play defense.
He's a very good defender, rebounder. I'm a little concerned that his offense isn't getting better.
In fact, well, I don't know. I won't.
He's been a fantasy disappointment. I thought he was going to be like a 19-10 guy this year. Not even close.
Is he playing hurt? I can't tell. Is he dinged?
Maybe some. He's scoring offensively like somebody whose girlfriend dumped him 3 months ago, and he hasn't gotten over it. Okay. Well, I'll move Lopez back a little. Maybe. Let me look at that. Next group.
Go ahead.
These are all veterans with really fair to excellent contracts, except for the last one, but we'll cover them. The tentative order. Number 34, Kevin Martin. Then Caron Butler, Devin Harris, Josh Smith, Hedo Turkoglu, David West, Pau Gasol.
So
the only bad contract out of those guys is Gasol, who makes like $17 million a year, but probably fairly paid.
So that's what I was going to say. That's not really a bad contract, is it?
I mean, it's not a great contract. I don't think a lot of teams couldn't afford it, but the teams that could afford it would want it. Like if you're the Knicks, the Bulls,
right?
I think, now the rap on him when Memphis was trying to trade him last year was that he was too expensive. But now we're seeing, which we're not seeing it. We knew it all along. Chris Wallace was the only one who didn't know it. But this is a guy who's a phenomenal offensive player.
Exactly.
Who deserves to be double teamed, who can play all types of styles, who's a good passer.
Game changer, potentially.
And not, looks like somebody that you'd want to keep away from your girlfriend.
So the big thing is, I think he smells. He looked like he smells.
Is that a xenophobic comment?
Why? He has facial hair.
He does look he looks like, I would say he looks like he showers maybe once every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, what's xenophobic about that? His nationality doesn't have anything to do with the fact that he looks like he smells.
I have some bad news. ESPN wants you to go to a sensitivity group for my occasional podcast guests.
The thing that's concerning about that is I manage a team of like 55 federal employees, so that would be bad.
I agree with you. He looks like he has BO. Not as bad as Vlade, though. Vlade just looked like somebody you wouldn't even want to walk 10 feet behind after a game.
Well, look, we don't have to wonder about Vlade. We know he smells. I've been in proximate contact with him. He stinks.
Yeah, he did. When we had our old seats by the garden, by the players walked in and out, he walked by our seats once, and it was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like everybody was like, "Whoa, what was that?"
Right.
You can't judge, though.
If you say so.
Are you happy with that order? Martin, Butler,
the only
Harris.
thing I wonder about, and I don't remember off the top of my head, what's Devin Harris's contract?
Oh, it's a nice one.
Is it?
It's like I'm going to say 4 years left for $31 million.
So
I have this. Hold on.
That's a good contract. Okay.
4 years left at $36 million.
Because the thing that I sort of wondered about with him, that's a good contract, by the way.
That's a nice contract.
Is would Orlando say yes to taking Devin Harris for Jameer Nelson? Those contracts are pretty similar.
Well, now they would. Jameer Nelson's got the gimp arm.
Well, you know what I mean, though. The way Jameer was playing this season.
Yeah. I mean, if Jameer Nelson was healthy, he would have made this list. I would have bumped somebody. He would have been right either before or after Devin Harris. It's a nice... the difference with Nelson is that, his team was succeeding more than Harris's team.
Yeah.
Harris seems like more of a stat guy to me.
So that's my concern about Harris, exactly. I mean, I think I'd take Nelson over Harris, personally.
Well, not right now.
Not right now. That's right. Well, and I guess, you know what, by the way, this is an excellent time of year. Can I make a proposal that we do this column and this whole thing the week of All-Star? Because last year we did it too early, I feel like. Yeah,
that's fine. I mean, we've been gravitating toward that for 6 years.
Yeah, now we have the benefit of a full half season. We're an All-Star week. There's only 2 games.
Well, let me ask you this. Does Sacramento do Devin Harris for Kevin Martin? I say no.
I say no also.
Does Washington do Devin Harris for Caron Butler?
Definitely not.
And Atlanta doesn't do Devin Harris for Josh Smith. Orlando, yeah, I think that's the right spot for him. Does Orlando trade Hedo Turkoglu for Josh Smith?
Ooh, I say yes. Josh Smith is so young.
But here's the thing with Hedo, though.
He blocks so many shots.
But Hedo is the go-to guy in a team that's going to be the 3rd or 4th seed. I don't know if you trade him.
Yeah, that's a very good conundrum. It's fine. Leave them the way they are, because that's right. Orlando would not upset what it has right now.
No.
To sort of, see what.
You know what, though? How about this? Would New Orleans trade David West for Hedo?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I don't either. Would the Wizards trade Caron Butler for Josh Smith?
Oh, wow.
Would you do that? You have to pay Josh Smith about $4 million a year more.
I don't think so. The reason I don't think so is because Caron has demonstrated himself, character-wise, to be very steady and stable. Right. And I still have a little concern about Josh.
Oh, really?
That's a hard one, though.
That's your expert opinion?
Come on. I'm trying to understate it.
Yeah. Nah, I'm with
That's
you.
a really hard one because, the Wizards should be thinking about, they basically have sort of blown up.
Would Orlando trade Hedo Turkoglu for Caron Butler?
I think they would. They should.
They should, but I don't know if they upset what they have. And if I'm Washington, I don't do it.
Yeah, well, there you go. The Wizards wouldn't do it.
Who would think about it for a split second more?
I think Orlando.
Yeah, I think they would at least have a meeting about it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move him up, I think. All right. Let's go to the next group.
Mm-hmm.
We agree that Paul Gasol leads that group. Pau Gasol.
Yeah. And I mean, I think Powell should be in this next group, in fact, because there's a name on here that I object to being even in the top 40.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Rajon Rondo.
Yeah.
O.J. Mayo.
It's interesting, but I get the argument. That's not the one.
Can I finish the group? Can I do that? Can I finish the group?
Go ahead.
Rajon Rondo, O.J. Mayo, Andrew Bynum, and then number 24, Greg Oden.
Right. So Oden's the one that I would not even have on this list.
Not even in the top 40?
No. Who wants Greg Oden?
Wow. John Hollinger says his rebound rate's very good. He just has a trouble with keeping in games because of foul trouble.
I think you're baiting me. I think that's deliberate and mean-spirited, using Hollinger like that.
I'm having Hollinger on. We're going to finally have it out.
I like his stuff.
I like his stuff too, but
it just produces the funniest results ever.
Well, no, here's the thing. When you can't praise Oden for his rebound rate and then casually mention that he commits a foul like every 10 seconds. That's why he's getting rebounds, because he's jumping over guys. There's a balance between rebounding and staying in a game that most other people have figured out, and Greg Oden has not.
Well, the other thing is, and I love Greg Oden, the person. I mean, he's such a great guy by every indication. But when I watch him run, it looks like he runs with two left feet. So that's not a guy that's at the top of my trade list.
So you're saying he should be moved to at the very least, the Aldridge, Horford, Lopez, David Lee, Eric Gordon group.
Yeah, I mean that's like his like ceiling to me.
You're telling me the Wizards, if Portland offered them Greg Oden for Caron Butler, the Wizards would not do that?
I hope not, but I mean, who knows? I wouldn't do that. I would not do that.
Wouldn't he have more value to Portland though than he would to other teams, because they basically passed up on Kevin Durant?
So that's the only argument that I can understand as to why you would have him here.
But
that's the only team in the whole league that values him that way.
But that's a legitimate argument, though. The whole concept is who has the most trade value, and he has more trade value to Portland than.
But see, that's not trade value. That's like franchise value. I mean, they have to demonstrate to their fan base. They have an argument, yet that they still have to make that they spent their number one pick the right way.
Well,
and that's the only team in the whole league that feels that way about Greg Oden.
Hold on, I have to invoke the Darko precedent of 2005. Darko made a couple appearances on the trade value list. Not because of his talent, but because there was no way in hell Joe Dudemeyer was going to trade him and admit that he screwed up that pick. So we have a precedent of that we have to follow.
But that's the thing. So and this is why I take objection a little bit with the approach, the premise. Then that makes him number one on this list.
No, it doesn't make him number one.
Well, it makes him like top 5 or something. Well, I guess not. Okay, all right.
Yeah, but you didn't object with the Darko 3-4 years ago.
I don't remember that.
What do you mean you don't remember that? We discuss this list every year, and you signed off on Darko.
I don't remember any podcast on it.
We didn't have podcasts, but we talked about it. You signed off.
If you say so.
I actually do think we argued about this with Darko like multiple years ago.
Probably.
And you had the same thing that's stupid. But maybe I'll move him. Oh man, I still think you can't tell me Sacramento wouldn't trade Kevin Martin for Greg Oden.
Why? Why would they? Why would Sacramento do that?
I feel like there's people in the league who still feel like this Oden Durant thing wasn't a disaster.
Who are those people?
There are people. Go on the internet.
What people that don't live in Portland feel that way?
Well, and really 58% of all the material written about basketball on the internet right now is from Portland and Toronto. Portland and Toronto dominated the internet.
God bless them.
I don't get. I'll be honest. I watch a lot of basketball. I feel like I kind of know what I'm talking about. I don't see the Oden thing at all. I really don't. I feel like people have talk themselves into this. And, forget about you take away that I argued so passionately for the Durant-Oden thing.
Yeah.
I just don't see it as I'm watching the games. I don't think he jumps off the screen. I think he has flashes.
Right, me either.
I don't feel like he's a basketball player.
You're
I think
making
he's
my
just
point.
a good athlete.
Thank you. You just made my point.
I'd rather have Andrew Bynum.
So would I.
If he hadn't have torn his MCL, I think that's a no contest.
Right,
Bynum.
other than the 2 injuries in back-to-back years. No, Bynum's way better. He's much more
but
polished.
those were 2 fluke injuries.
I know. I love Bynum. Believe me. The only reason Bynum's 25 is because he's been hurt 2 consecutive years. That guy is a top 15 talent.
I think most GMs would admit that. Well, the other problem is, though, Oden has a better contract than Bynum. So maybe he does go ahead of Bynum.
I don't know.
Would you rather pay Oden $5 million or Andrew Bynum $14?
I would pay Oden 14. I mean Bynum 14.
That's a tough one.
I would pay. That's not even hard for me.
The other thing I don't like about
Andrew Bynum scored 42 points in an NBA basketball game.
I know, but I went to that game. He scored against DeAndre Jordan and Brian Skinner.
I don't care.
It was DeAndre Jordan and Brian Skinner.
I don't care. As soon as Greg Oden scores 42 points in a basketball game.
You know what's funny is that every year there's somebody like Greg Oden in this trade value thing, which is like you just can't figure it out. Obviously, he's worth more to the team. His artificial trade value doesn't reflect anything that I'm actually watching on TV.
Right.
Like I know he has some games where he blocks shots and grabs rebounds and all that stuff, but I just don't see it. I really don't.
You know where I stand. As I said, I wouldn't even have him on the list.
Well,
I mean, seriously, like Utah would consider Carlos Boozer for Greg Oden. Well, actually, they would. They would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, they would do that.
That's a bad one.
They would.
Would Phoenix take Greg Oden for Amari?
I might move him back. I'm going to think about that some more.
Anyway,
it's a conundrum.
Well,
what do you think of my reader who thought that he's the real life Benjamin Button?
I hadn't heard that. I hope it's true. I think he's a great guy. I really enjoyed him on the ESPYs. He's funny.
Yeah. Well, maybe he'll host the ESPYs one year.
Yeah.
And perform at it.
That would be good.
He's
just not you know.
I'm sorry for my silence. For some reason, even though we're recording this podcast, I am adjusting my list. Like I couldn't have done that later.
Well, here's the thing that's really stunning. We're at about the 50-minute mark, and we're 16 picks in here.
Yeah.
I mean, who in America wants to listen to you and I talk for an hour about?
Oh, so many people want to hear it.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard of.
All right, well, we could breeze through. The second part's a little easier.
Yeah,
the next
I agree.
group is just Steve Nash and Tony Parker.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is there another player that you can think of to win the NBA League MVP award and not make an All-Star team in a succeeding year, on a non-injury basis? 2-time League MVP, not in the All-Star game.
Steve Nash? Yeah, but he's 35.
Well, I mean, who else fits that category?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
Is there anybody?
I mean, Bob McAdoo was either a two-time MVP. He won twice, and then by 77 wasn't in the All-Star
So
games.
maybe that's it.
Maybe he can.
But you have to go all the way back like that.
You have to go to the cocaine era. Who says no faster to a Steve Nash, Tony Parker trade?
The Spurs.
Yeah, I agree. Nash shows flashes, but I just get the feeling from him now that he's so bummed out that they didn't win a title during those 4 years. Like, you can kind of see it now. It's the window. He watched the window shut.
Well, and they deconstructed that team in such a weird way.
Yeah.
The combo of Shaq and then Terry Porter, and it's just weird.
And the whole trading draft picks to get rid of contracts.
Right. They're trying to save money. If I would lived in Phoenix, I mean, I would love for somebody to explain to me why I should spend $1 on going to see that basketball team.
No, they should boycott. Well, it's the same thing with the Clipper fans.
It's the same thing with Washington fans, which is why I haven't spent $1 to go see that basketball team.
Yeah, but the Washington fans, they're just stupid. I mean, their heart was in the right place. They're just throwing money around like, it's like free coupons or something. Next group is just two people, Chauncey Billups and Paul Pierce, number 21 and number 20.
Seems right to me. Yeah. Two instrumental elements to the success of their teams.
Yeah. Okay. And when I keep saying next group, these are levels. You're talking about we're doing this basically on a tier basis, so that guys are grouped in the same tier, and then when it goes to the next tier, that tier is slightly above the tier we just did.
Slightly above.
I'm correcting that for the 3 people who are still listening. The next group, one of my favorites. It's a nice group. Number 19, Joe Johnson.
Yeah.
Number 18, Al Jefferson.
Oh, heartbreak of the year. Love that guy.
So crushing. My favorite non-Celtic. He really was. Number 17, Carmelo Anthony. Number 16, Danny Granger. So Joe Johnson, Jefferson, Anthony, Granger.
So the only thing that's weird to me as I look at it is, like, how do you sort of rank those guys as they relate to Chauncey and Pierce? Like, who would say no first to Joe Johnson for Paul Pierce?
I think the Celtics think about that a second longer.
Okay. And that's why you have it organized that way.
Yeah, because I think Billups and Pierce now you're talking about, and this is one of the great things about the trade value column, would you rather have 4 more years of Paul Pierce, or would you rather have 9 of Joe Johnson?
Yeah, that's right.
If Pierce was, and I've noticed just from watching Pierce, I think last year he peaked the last 2-3 years he peaked as a player.
Yeah.
I think now he's starting to settle into a different phase of his career. It's just in the embryonic stages of happening, but from watching every Celtic game, you can just kind of see it.
Yeah.
Are you happy with Jefferson at 18? Higher, lower?
If he wasn't hurt, I would think about having him higher.
Oh, if he wasn't hurt, I think he'd be in the 8 to 11 range.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, the really funny thing is we probably could have a decent conversation around KG for Jefferson, couldn't we?
And we probably would have if he hadn't gotten hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is also the other thing with Jefferson is his contract is excellent.
Yeah, it's an excellent contract.
It was 5 years, $55 million.
It's another thing that makes him so likable. I mean, the guy, it was basically the first offer that Minnesota made, and he said, you know what, it's going to make me set for life. I'm going to do it.
I loved Al Jefferson. It killed me to trade him. I'm glad we won the title, but I got to say, as awesome as it was to win the title, and I wouldn't change a thing. It was the one strange thing was winning it with guys that I had really no history with. Guys that I had been rooting with for 7-8 months.
Yeah.
Pierce was the only guy that I was completely and totally attached to because I watched him grow up from a pup in the woods. He got stabbed. He hit the big time. He didn't handle it well. It would have been nice to go that road with Jefferson just because he was such a great guy.
Sure, absolutely.
But whatever, we won the title.
Yeah,
Next
right.
group.
Whatever.
Next group. This is an interesting one. All high-priced guys who are franchise guys, basically. And I include Manu in this list. I don't care what people think. Manu at number 15.
I agree with Manu there.
Bosch at 14.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Williams at 13.
Yeah.
Dirk Nowitzki at 12.
Yeah.
Kevin Garnett at 11.
So the only thing that's sort of weird is doesn't everybody pretty much recognize in terms of player contribution that KG is sort of on the downside? He's
definitely, his rebounding stats are down. He's unquestionably not the same player. He's had he's played 1,000 games.
But the thing that makes him a lock solid 11 is the fact that what he brings to the table with his ability, his leadership skills, even with you calling them overrated.
Why'd you have to bring that up?
You said that they're overrated. You said it.
He was a little overrated.
You said it 48 minutes ago when this thing started.
What did I say?
That his leadership skills and his,
Oh, I was joking. I was saying if he was such a good leader, he would have punched Big Baby in the face after his third brick.
Right.
Maybe he did after the game. That's let me clarify that.
Okay, good.
Okay, so this is an interesting group. Manu makes it because he's got one of the most phenomenal contracts on the planet. Stop heavy breathing into the phone, by the way.
We're in the top 15. I'm getting excited.
Manu has 2 years left at $20.6 million. That is phenomenal.
That's a heavy breather of a contract.
He should be making 2 years left for $35 million.
Yep.
So, Manu 15, Chris Bosh 14. Does Dallas trade Nowitzki for Bosh?
That's a tough one. They should.
I think he means more to Dallas than Bosch means to Toronto.
Well, that's it. That's why they wouldn't.
Does Toronto trade Bosch for Nowitzki?
Does Toronto trade Bosch for Nowitzki? Oh,
No.
well, actually, I don't think so. I don't think so.
You know who would hope they did that?
Who?
Every other power forward in the league. Going against Dirk Nowitzki and Andrea Bargnani.
Yeah. Oh, my
God. I'm going to score 50 points.
That's true.
Would the Celtics trade Kevin Garnett for Dirk Nowitzki?
No way.
Would the Celtics trade Kevin Garnett for Chris Bosh?
I don't think so.
Would Utah trade Darren Williams for Chris Bosh? More heavy breathing.
I actually am not multitasking right now.
Oh, good. Thanks for joining us.
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, too.
That's hard, though, isn't it?
It's hard, but because they have Millsap and Karolinko, and they'll probably re-sign a Memo, maybe.
But I mean, think about how complimentary Bosch would be to that lineup. Holy cow.
How much do we blame Chris Bosh for the fact that his team's not winning and doing terribly right now?
Not very much.
A little?
From my point of view. They
tiny bit?
They've had weird, the Calderon injury stuff hasn't been good. Bargnani was a wasted pick. Coaching changes aren't all that,
Would you put Manu above Chris Bosh?
Yeah. Well, but no, because Toronto, I don't think would take Manu in exchange for Chris Bosh.
Yeah. Although he is $5 million cheaper. All right, let's get to the next group. We got 3 groups left.
Yeah.
This is one of, I think, the greatest groups in the history of the trade value column. 3 people. Number 10, Brandon Roy.
Uh-huh.
Number 9, Derrick Rose. Number 8, my boyfriend, Kevin Durant.
He is your boyfriend.
I love him.
And he's another guy from the D.C. area, so I love him too. I think that's the perfect order for them. I think it's a rock solid group, and I fully expect this group to be in the top 10 next year.
It's probably the foundation of the 2012 Dream Team, along with LeBron, right?
That's probably right. Yeah.
LeBron, these 3 guys, and who else? Chris Paul.
Uh-huh.
That's going to be an interesting
Darren Williams.
That's going to be an interesting point guard controversy in 2012. Chris Paul, Derrick Rose, Darren Williams, 2 point guard spots.
Can't Darren Williams play 2 guard?
I guess he could.
He's big.
I guess he could. Are you okay with Brandon Roy being in this group and not 2 groups back, right in front of Danny Granger at number 15?
Yeah, I like him. I like him where he is. I mean, it's kind of weird to look at that list like Manu, and think, would San Antonio trade Manu for Brandon Roy? I don't think so, but
well, they wouldn't. But if they called Portland and offered Manu for Brandon Roy, Portland says no. If Portland calls San Antonio and says, hey, would you trade us Manu for Brandon Roy? San Antonio says, whoa, and they at least have a meeting.
Actually, let's talk about Brandon Roy for another 10 seconds. Would Toronto trade Chris Bosh for Brandon Roy?
I don't know.
I don't think they would.
I think Portland is less likely. I just think he means so much to the fans and the franchise. And he's really, this year and it was a little last year too, but this year he has emerged as just an assassin.
Well, that's the part about it,
You can win a title if he was your crunch time guy.
There you go. And he's demonstrating that he has that appetite to be a crunch time guy, and
right.
He's successful at it. The only thing that I have a smidgen of concern about is the injury thing.
I have more than a smidgen. I have a bidgen.
A smudge?
I have a bidgen. A smudge. I have a whole smudge.
You're beyond smidgen into smudge.
Yeah, I have a smudge. He can't seem to play more than 30 straight games without something dumb happening.
Yeah.
And I've heard a variety of reasons. It's now become apocryphal of why he fell to number 7, with people worried about his knee or his ankles. I've heard all different weird things. He's got 1 kidney. Oh wait, that's Daryl Arthur. But anyway, I don't think you could win 70 games if he was your best guy. But I think if you surrounded him with one of those 89 Pistons type teams, we had 9 really good quality guys and maybe no prototypical franchise guy, but you had just a group of really good guys and he was your crunch time guy, you could win a title.
Yeah, I'm not going to backpedal on what I said a minute ago, which is that this is exactly the right order at 10-9-8.
Yeah.
But looking at the 15-11, there are some, it's tough to say that, like, Dallas would consider Dirk for Brandon Roy.
Yeah, but I still think there's no way Portland trades Brandon Roy unless it's for the next two guys. They wouldn't even do it.
What about, would Utah consider Brandon Roy for Duran?
You mean Darren?
Yes.
Oh, you like calling him Duran. You love doing that.
That's my thing.
Here's the kicker. Brandon Roy is on the third year of his contract. You have to pay him like $4 million this year and $5 million next year and $5.5 the year after that.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd rather do that than pay Darren Williams 15 or 17, whatever he is. I mean, when you talk about the finances, I think that pushes it over the top.
Okay.
Should Durant be higher?
No.
You're happy with him at 8?
I'm happy with him at 8 because there isn't one guy in the top 7 where I could see the team saying yes to a trade.
Yeah. Next year, where do you see him?
Well, I think he'll be. He might be 8 again. There aren't a lot of guys he's going to. Well, I don't know. He might. There are 2 guys I'm looking at right now that he might come in ahead of. So maybe he's like 6 or so.
I think he could keep jumping. The guy's been, he could average 30 a game with 9 rebounds a game for the rest of the year, and he's 20 years old.
When we start rocking through these top 7, though, it's like, who's he going to bump? There aren't many guys that are eligible.
I love him. I'm very close to saying that. Well, I'm not very close to saying it, but this would be a debate I'd have to think about for 3 hours. Would I trade the 2008 title for Kevin Durant? For the chance to watch him for 15
You would think about it for 3 hours, but fortunately, the people that listen to this podcast are going to feel like it was 3 hours.
I would think about it for as long as this podcast took. Let's go to the next group quickly.
Go ahead.
2 guys. Yao Ming, number 7. Kobe Bryant, number 6.
Yeah, and you can't move that. That's unmovable. Immovable.
When we had our Queer as Folk tea moment in New York City a couple weeks ago.
when we had afternoon tea at the Plaza, you mean?
House and I had afternoon tea at the lobby of the Plaza and tried to figure this out. Was that top 6 most effeminate things you've ever done?
Yes.
There are pictures and they've been destroyed.
And I've worn a yellow scarf before.
Yeah. That was pretty good. That was right up there with Chet in the real world going to the gay bar. But anyway, when we figured this out, I had Yao in like the teens and you talked me out of it.
Yeah, because I don't think Houston's trading them.
No, and we've come a long way with him since the Yao Mirasan jokes I was making this summer. For some reason, he was moving terribly this summer, but for some reason now he moves much better.
Yeah, I wonder if there was some rust from the Olympics, that summer. It takes such a toll on guys.
For the second straight year, we discussed Yao Ming in the podcast and had to remove one of the parts.
That gets to stay in, though.
No, we took it out.
No, yeah, the joke's out, but the fact that you had to remove a joke and it related to Yao is in.
Last group. We have 5 guys left. The tentative order. Number 5, Dwayne Wade. Mm-hmm. Number 4, the furthest he's ever fallen in 8 years of the trade value column, Mr. Tim Duncan. Never has fallen out of the top 3 before today.
Yeah.
Number 3, CP, Chris Paul.
Sure.
Although you could call him CK for Coach Killer. CP or CK. Number 2, the man-child, Superman, Mr. Dwight Howard. And number 1, LeBron James.
The incomparable, the unparalleled.
Yeah. The freaking 6'9", 280-pound, oh my God, LeBron James.
Right.
What do you think of that order?
The only one I wonder about is D. Wade because of the season he's having this year.
Should he be higher, you mean?
That's what I'm wondering. Can he be ahead of Tim Duncan?
Listen, I already battled this out for twice as long as this podcast has taken, and I've switched it 6 times. I don't know the answer to that. I think Duncan at this point. Plus, I still think Duncan, of any guy in the league, still gives you the best chance to win the title, as crazy as that sounds.
I couldn't agree more with that. That's exactly my point of view. And that's why, just sticking to the basic rules of this thing, San Antonio doesn't trade Tim Duncan for Dwayne Wade.
No.
So that's why he comes ahead of Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
But holy cow, is D. Wade,
Yeah.
what a talent.
Look, this is like getting nominated for an Oscar. You've already won if you made the final group.
That's exactly right.
If you don't win the number one prize, it doesn't matter. You're basically this. Now we're all talking about super, super finite levels of degrees. And, there's really no difference between Dwayne Wade, number 5, Chris Paul, number 3.
No, there isn't.
I think if Miami offered Dwayne Wade to New Orleans for Chris Paul, I think New Orleans says no faster than Miami would have if it was the other way, only because Wade is a free agent in 2 years.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why I feel like he's 5. I know Wade might leave in 2 years. I know Duncan will never leave San Antonio.
Right.
And if you're San Antonio and, you're this little town in Texas, the little town that you won some titles, you're not finding like a ton of guys who are like excited to spend their whole career there, and they've somehow found 2.
Let's just do this real quick.
Yeah.
Would L.A. take Dwayne Wade for Kobe?
Man, I would hope so.
Even with the way this team is configured and what Kobe's bringing to the table these days?
I think they'd at least think about it for a split second more than Miami would think about it,
Okay, all right.
Because Kobe's got, 1,100 games on him at this point.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, and he really coasted like the shrewd veteran that he is.
Yeah, he's
like he should
done
have.
A masterful job of not going to the basket that much, conserving his energy.
Yeah.
He did a nice job of kind of figuring out how to get that MJ turnaround off all the time.
And I mean, he's post-Olympic, rest through the first third of the regular season.
Yeah, he's my number 2 MVP choice.
Yeah,
I think he's been awesome. And I think he instills a confidence in his teammates that is a rare skill, that is something that he didn't normally do. And I don't even think he fully did it last year. You
know what's going to be crazy? I think that getting rid of the Rad Man is a little underrated right now. It's going to be huge for them come playoff time.
Just the fact that he stinks and they don't have to play him?
Yes, he literally stinks. He's another one with facial hair and looks like he smells bad. But he also had a bad attitude.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was constantly had a sourpuss.
I got to say, the history of people from the Yugoslavian region with attitudes and demeanors has not been great with the NBA.
Well, I get, Drazen Petrovic set the bar pretty high.
No, he was good, though. Everybody loved playing with him.
He was better than good, and he had a great attitude. He was happy.
Yeah, maybe that's why I feel that way.
Vlade was happy, too.
There's been a surliness with some of them.
Some of them have a surliness.
I think out of my favorite group of foreign players, I think I enjoy the Italians the most.
I'm into the Argentinians.
Oh, I forgot it. Damn it. Yeah, I'd go Argentinians 1.
Yeah.
Who else do we have other than Manu?
Scola.
Oh, yeah, I like Scola.
Oberto.
Like Oberto. Yeah, they just know how to play.
Yeah.
They're all fun to play with, it seems like.
And your boy Nocioni.
Yeah. What happened with him?
He makes too much money.
Dwight Howard versus LeBron, any kind of...
No, come on.
But LeBron might leave in 2 years, whereas Dwight Howard's not leaving.
That's preposterous.
No,
that's ridiculous. Come on.
No?
There's nobody... I mean, seriously, the LeBron ceiling... It's like MJ, Bird, Magic, right?
Yeah. Although we talked about this on the phone yesterday, for whatever reason, Cleveland just matches up terribly with the Lakers.
So I know this podcast is 2 hours and 47 minutes long already.
We're at like the 75-minute mark.
But do that. We talked about a good thing yesterday. So Cleveland can't beat LA.
Oh yeah, it's like a four-way version of rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but Cleveland just matches up awful with the Lakers. Like they have nobody to guard Kobe. The Lakers defend LeBron really well for some reason. There's just a variety of bad things happening for Cleveland. But I think they would beat Boston in a series because the Celtics have nobody to guard LeBron. I think Boston would beat San Antonio in a series, regardless of what happened on Sunday, which is very fluky. I like the way the Celtics match up with San Antonio, and I think San Antonio would beat the Lakers in a series. So it's like this four-way round robin of one team can beat the other team.
And we think that San Antonio would beat Cleveland in a series.
Yes.
Right?
I think each each of the teams could beat two, and I think Boston would beat LA in this series. I know what the season series is, but if KG doesn't fall out of that game, Boston wins that game.
Yeah.
Period. End of story.
I don't, they demonstrated that they're capable of it, so I won't argue with that.
I think each team has two other teams that they'd have an advantage over, except for Cleveland, who I think the only team they could beat is Boston.
Yeah, that's interesting. What's happened in the Cleveland-San Antonio matchup so far this year?
Actually, you know what? Maybe that LA-Boston that's now dead even.
Even?
Yeah, because I think...
That's generous of you to say that.
No, well, I think because you think how close Boston came to losing that series last year for the first few games, and now Posey's not out. And the fact that Tony Allen and Big Baby actually play crucial minutes for this team, I just can't wrap my head around it. These two guys are terrible.
That's the qualification. It's the as currently configured. As these teams are currently configured, because the next 2 weeks are going to be exciting.
They're going to be exciting.
Right?
You know what? I'm going to recant my Boston-LA thing. I think that's a dead heat.
We'll call it a dead heat.
But I do think Boston would beat San Antonio.
What about Cleveland, San Antonio?
I think San Antonio beats them.
Okay.
I still think San Antonio is the best team.
Okay, I'll go along with that.
Joe House, as always, a pleasure. Thank you for sitting through with us for the last 4 hours.
Nothing makes me happier than talking basketball with you, Bill Simmons.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.